Welcome to TP Design 2021 Open House. This is interior architecture. House, and we're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Christine. I'll be the moderator and the host today. And along with me, I have Jeremy and Inda on my side. Okay, so we're going to start off with talking about what is interior architecture. So we're going to begin with the introduction.
Christine, you're muted. You're muted.
Oh, okay, sorry. Welcome to TP Interior Architecture Design Open House 2021. Today we're going to begin with introducing who I am. My name is Christine, and I'm the host and moderator today. And we have both Inda and Jeremy on both my sides. Okay, so we're going to start off with the introduction of what is interior architecture design. So this is a slide content page of what we're going to go through today. And we're going to start with what is IAD. So IAD is interior architecture design, which is talking about the design of a building, both interior design and architecture in itself. So you can read a little about this, but that is the brief introduction of what our course is about. So about the subjects, Jeremy, would you like to introduce?
Okay. So the subject that...
Unmute.
So in IAD, the subjects are actually very practical and very hands-on, like building models. And in addition, we also learn a lot of conceptual subjects, such as the history of architecture, and along with construction and structural elements of the building. To prepare us better for the future, we also take subjects which teaches us digital software such as AutoCAD, Revit, and Photoshop. This software will be useful to both designers and architects as they prepare us for the future.
Okay, thank you for the slight introduction of our subjects. And we're going to have a conversation now. So simply, we're just going to talk about how we got into joining IAD and why we chose to come here. Actually, I've known Jeremy and Inda for 2 years, but I don't actually know the story or how Jeremy actually came into IAD. So Jeremy, can you tell me why you decided to join IAD and why you're here right now?
Yeah, so not a lot of people know this, but the reason why I joined IAD is actually because I took literature in secondary school, and you might think like, how does literature relate to interior architecture? But I will slowly get into that. So in secondary school, I actually took a science-based module, like science-based subjects, where I took chemistry and physics. And after O levels, I was actually very lost. I didn't know where to go, and yeah. And then one thing that kind of like made me join design was because I knew that I wanted a subject where I'm able to be creative, where I can be free in the things I do. And one thing is that I was sure that I wanted to join design, but I didn't know what course in design I wanted to join. And the reason why I joined interior architecture was actually the idea of buildings in general. The idea of not just like a building which is made out of concrete and just like it's just there. It's a bigger story of architecture, such as like the people inside, how architecture is for the people, and how it also brings the idea of empathy as well, and how architects are actually creating buildings and spaces for the people itself. So that was the driving factor that actually made me join interior architecture, and I am happy to be here. Yeah.
Actually, Jeremy, I think we have a lot in common. So basically, for you and I both, we came from both science courses, and I took triple science as my subject combination in Sec 3. And I have never taken coursework until I came into IED, and that's definitely one of the hardest parts about joining here. But for me, joining design was kind of an impulse decision. I just knew that I didn't really want to go anywhere else. I didn't really want to do science or math or language even. So I, in the end, decided to choose design on an impulse decision. But honestly, I'm quite happy with my decision, and it's been an amazing 2 years. But one thing that I'm interested in is because both Jeremy and I came from JAE, and we followed through on O levels, and we also did science combinations and humanities combinations. However, Inda, on the other hand, she came through EAE. And then because of that, I want to know how was her experience going through EAE and why she decided to come this course compared to both of us.
Wow, Jeremy, Christine, that's really interesting. For myself, I took coursework in secondary school, and I just really knew that being someone who took double humans, double science, and coursework, I just was floating all over the place. I really didn't know where I wanted to go, and I consulted with a teacher that I was close with, and I realized that in the future, what I really wanted to do was invest in something, and I believe that my strength lied in design, so that's where I decided to invest my energy and my time into. And I just went for it, go for it, and I went for the EAE. And EAE is a really interesting process. First, you have to sign up and you have to, talk about why you're interested in the course, and they will pick you out if they are interested in your reason. And you'll just go for an aptitude test. And the aptitude test, if you are able to progress forward, you will then move on to an interview. And at that time in 16 years old, I was really a clean slate. I had nothing. I didn't know anything about design, but my coursework actually helped me build up the portfolio that I brought with me. And I strongly believe that is what helped me to get into the course. And yeah, if you're in secondary school and you are taking coursework, just use it as a foundation to build up on your work and to really just flaunt your talents. And it makes me realize also that 60% of our cohort mates are actually from EAE. And how was it for you and Jeremy though, not taking coursework? Was it a very big transition from secondary to poly?
For me, I think the biggest transition from secondary school to poly would have to be how in secondary school is a very structured format where there is like exams that's already planned out throughout secondary school, such as mid-year exams and then the final exams. I forgot what's it called already, but yeah. And when I moved into poly, right, I was in a very unfamiliar environment actually. And however, this environment sort of allowed me to open up my shell in a sense. And it even allowed me to push myself to explore even more and to grow. And the thing about design is that there's always room to grow. There's no perfection in a sense. There is always something to look forward to, something to keep improving on. There's no like end for design, and there's also always room for improvement. And as designers, we are always reaching and pushing the limits.
Okay, on the other hand, for my transition, I feel that the hardest part about it was the coursework. As I've mentioned before, I did not do any coursework before coming in, and coursework in itself, it's very independent, it's very on yourself, and we don't have like specific instructions like a science practical test telling us what we should do and what we should not do. And like he said, there's no real or right answer, but there is a preferred answer, and there is a way how we have to do things. However, coming in here, I think the most hardest thing about the first term was figuring out how to figure out things. Like they will give us a question, and we would be confused on what we're supposed to be doing, and we don't actually have the right answer to everything else. But the beauty of it is that we figured out how to get to that place by ourselves, and that made us more independent. That honestly made me so much more independent, and it taught me so many things about design. And I realized that one of the things was that they want you to learn it yourself. They don't want to like hand you answers and feed it to you. And that's why the transition was so hard, but also made it easier from that point onwards. Once I got a grasp of how concept design works and how coursework works, I feel like that made it much easier to the point of time and the extension of it. So therefore, I felt that, yeah, it was definitely difficult talking about the transition into poly, but also there were some good parts and hard parts about them. So talking about coursework, subjects in IED are one of the hardest things that you would probably experience here, because it's one of the major things. And let's talk about digital software first. In IED, our subjects are split into three different ones. One is known as the technical subjects, which is digital and software. We have one which is based on our huge project called the Integrated Studio Projects. And we also have research-based projects and subjects as well. Therefore, I'm going to talk about my favorite first, and my favorite subject is actually 3D Max. And 3D Max is a digital software that will, in the end, what the school hopes is that when we go out to work next time, that gives us an advantage over everybody else who hasn't learned the software. As our world these days is a technology-driven one, we start to learn different kinds of digital and software even from the start of year one. We learn Photoshop, SketchUp, AutoCAD, Revit, and 3D Max, and many, many more that follows along as well. And looking at this picture, you see many, many pictures, but every single one of these, I can assure you, they're either drawings or they're just digital software. One thing insane about 3D Max or Revit is to create something out of a block. So basically, you have one rectangle and somehow you're able to create a building. How is that even possible? That's insane. And I think that's what's so cool and magical about technical and digital softwares. They also teach us how to use the mechanic part of different buildings, and we learn about plumbing through all of these as well. So I think it's incredibly cool that we can use rendering to do Photoshop and Revit, and that's why 3D Max is actually my favorite subject. So let me pass on to the Integrated Studio project. So Jeremy, do you want to talk about that?
Yep. So I'll be talking more about the Integrated Studio projects that what IED has. So what is Integrated Studio project, you might ask? So it is basically a long-term project that integrates different subjects together into one final project. At the beginning, we students will start at what we call the site analysis, where we students are actually, for our project, we're actually given a specific site to study. And so that's what we call the site analysis, is where we go down to the site and we analyze the site, such as the traffic and the people there and the sun and wind. From there, we will start to develop a design concept, which is probably the most interesting part of the design process, as each individual concept is actually very unique and special. So one example will have to be on screen, is where we have a fellow classmate called Ashley Koo. His concept for this building is actually brutalism. As you can see, this is actually an example of a small part of his storyboard that he actually used for his Integrated Studio project. Yeah, as you can see, the final storyboard is actually a representation of different elements of the project that is being brought together into one. Interesting as it may, we all have our own individual and unique thinking and creativity. All of us have our own different styles, and it can be shown in storyboarding, such as the way you lay out certain stuff. As you can see here, on the screen itself, there's a few examples of what we call rendering. Rendering is a tool that is able to allow us as viewers to visualize the space in a building. And lighting can play a very important role, and the ambience also, and you're able to feel sort of the atmosphere and environment inside this space, whether it can be a very calm environment or maybe it can be a very hectic environment also. And then this is like the power of visual images in the architecture, in the interior architecture. So yeah, and I would say that in IED, we all have our own individual strengths and weaknesses. Some may excel in model making, some may excel in digital rendering, such as this, or some may even be do good in just analyzing and creating very interesting concept. So this is where we are like test in all these areas. And what I can say from experience, the like while doing this integrated studio project is that the lecturers will always be with you, and they'll always guide you and through this process, and they will constantly ask for updates, and then they will always try to push you further in your design.
Jeremy, actually, I want to ask, out of all these stories that you've talked about, which has been your favorite project that you've done so far?
My favorite project will have to be the Integrated Studio Project 1, which is our last project, integrated project for our year 1. So I'll talk more about the site. So for the site itself, we were actually given this area called Keongsai Road, which is actually along Chinatown. We were given an area between 2 shophouses and alleyway actually, and we were actually given the freedom to choose our client. So our task for this project was actually to create a space for this client to work, live, and play. Yes, so that was what we just need to do, and we were actually given full creativity and freedom to design the space. One thing that's very interesting that I thought was very interesting about this site was actually the two contrasting sides of the alleyway. So one side is actually a very industrial site, not really industrial, but very busy, where there's a lot of vehicle movements. There's a lot of people passing by. There's a lot of restaurants. While the other side is actually a park where it's more residential areas. So it's these two contrasting sites that I noticed in this site, which I tried to implement it in my concept. So my overall concept was actually to bring these two sites together. So for my client, I actually chose a smoothie barista. Yeah, if you don't know what a smoothie barista is, it's just a person that just makes smoothies. And what I thought of this very interesting is I wanted to, what consists of a smoothie is actually different elements of fruit, such as apples, orange, watermelon, and how like these fruits come together to create an overall smoothie. And then, yeah, so that's what I wanted this area to be, an area where these two contrasting sides of the alleyway can come together to like intermingle and like interact with each other. So yeah, this was like my overall concept, and I was very proud of the final model and final results of it. As for my concept, I also designed the space to look like shapes. If you can tell from the image, yeah, it's meant to look like fruit-like shapes to go along with my concept. So yeah, this was actually my first integrated studio project, and I was glad that my lecturers actually pushed me um, to go beyond what I was thinking initially and to try on new things. And I was very happy with the final results. And it was thanks to my lecturers and their belief in me. So yeah.
Oh my God, I remember this project, and I remember you had spent like 4 or 5 hours up to about 11 p.m. just in the studio cutting over a few thousand circles. That was insane. So, okay, so now let's move on to the next part, which is the research-based subject. So, Inda, would you like to take this lead?
Wow, outstanding work, Jeremy. Don't worry, guys. Based on what Jeremy said, Integrated Studio Project is a very large-scale project, but you will be prepared for it because we also have research-based projects, and these subjects help you lay the foundation into finding reliable and relevant information that you will use in your future projects. And some of the examples would include things like architectural design studies, material and finishes, interior design issues and trends, and also very interesting construction and detailing. Out of all of these subjects, I would say that in architectural design studies is my favorite personally, simply because you learn about the past, about the history and the timeline of architecture, how design progressed and evolved throughout the years, the century, and also how we simply think about design and how we do it and how we view it. Just like how music has different genres, design also has different elements throughout the centuries, and we adopt that style with us. So yeah, I guess it really helps bring in the practical side of things and how we actually use this to innovate and to push further the limits of what we understand design to be, finding out new materials and stuff like that, you know. So I would also say, aside from the subject being very tedious, you will learn a lot of good skills. And personally, the person who helped me to build up these skills was my lecturer, and she really left a super, super deep impression on me. And it really made me love this subject even more.
Okay, so I completely agree. I actually do love our ADS teacher, and she was insanely amazing. And it was such a difficult subject for me because I wasn't technically a research person, but she made it so much fun, and I love her for that. So let's go to lectures in ID. One of the hardest things about having lectures in ID is also the constant rejection, which we will cover on later. However, I'm going to take this time to say that we are all thankful for our lectures. Firstly, is because compared to secondary school, TP lectures, or rather poly lectures, they're more hands-on, and especially our design lectures, they are insanely amazing. Firstly, is because they actually care for you. They go out of their way to like care for you every single time. It's like once there was this time where we couldn't finish our project, and they did everything they could in their possible hands to make sure that we were okay, and they even extended the deadline for us because they knew that we were struggling. Another thing that I remember is actually there's this teacher that whenever she sees me and she'll ask me, "Are you okay?" And even though that doesn't seem like a very big thing, but sometimes like hearing those questions and asking someone asking you, "Are you alright?" It makes you feel like they really care for you, and they do. Especially in ID, the lecturers are so amazing and so sweet, which is one of the reasons why the three of us are here to thank them today. Also part of this, and we are going to say that if you come ID, they are insanely amazing, and all of our lecturers here, they'll definitely help you along the way. They'll definitely push you to your limits, but they will also be as friends and as mentors to you. So, Jeremy, do you have anything to say on this subject?
Yeah, I completely agree with you about our lecturers. As for me, I consider lecturers to be some sort of more of a mentor and more as a friend also. Is they're like people which I can like constantly joke around and like just have fun with, and like it's always free and easy with them. And even my past lecturers who I haven't even um my past lecturers who currently don't teach me anymore, I can still go to them for advice. They're always free to consult. I'll just approach them, even just after they finish their lessons with the other classes, and I can just approach them, and they are very willing to just sit down with me and go through my own concept and my own work along. So yeah, I'm very grateful for the lecturers, but lecturers can sometimes come off as very harsh and maybe be very like real with you, and some of the things you may hear may not seem appealing to you, but I do assure you that they do it out of a good heart, and they actually just want to push you to the best of your abilities. And yeah, and then some of my designs are actually from lecturers pushing me to challenge myself, such as like the previous studio project. And yeah, I just like to thank my lecturers also.
Okay, I have to admit that our lecturers do give very harsh criticism sometimes, but there are definitely things that I absolutely love about them. And I think Inda's the right person to talk about this, as she has a lecturer that she's super close with. So, Inda, do you want to say anything on this subject?
Well, Jeremy, Christine, I really, really agree with you guys. I guess what is so special about lecturers and the teachers alike in design would be that they really go the extra mile for their students. They don't have to, honestly, but they still do. And one thing that the lecturer really helped me with was that I struggled a lot due to my character to open up and to ask for help and advice and just really to approach somebody, but he really helped me to break out of my shell, and this improves me not only as a student but also as a person. So it just really helps you to change your perspective on things. And although the age gap was huge, but we still can connect. and talk about life and stuff like that. And yeah, you just really start to appreciate their perspective more, and you can learn a lot of things from them.
As the Chinese saying goes, they've eaten more salt than us. So, yeah, our lectures are amazing. And as you can see, these are photos of the last day of our first year with our lectures as well. And yeah, this was a really fun day. So, good parts also come with bad parts. And so, we're going to go to the hardest parts of IED now. It's going to get a bit rough. So, mind me. So first of all, we've talked about the subjects in the last 10 minutes. So I'm going to explain more about what is so difficult about these subjects. As I've said, coursework is definitely very difficult, but learning how to cope with it is a huge liability. It's hard to grasp the concept of what is project and what is a real-time project. And we have real clients, a real project, a real place that we are actually designing. We have boundaries and restrictions that we learn more in the year 2, along with our CODET, which is construction and detailing, and structural and material basis. And all of these actually conform to the idea that coursework is very difficult. And being in IED, there's a lot of different factors. And as you saw from the subjects earlier, they're not easy to learn. It's not something that it hits you overnight. But even though it's difficult to transition into the subjects, they were pretty fun to begin with, and they were fun at the end. There's this really nice feeling of knowing when your project ends that you've put in all your effort and the best. However, we have to admit that the subjects were extremely difficult in that sense as well. Therefore, I will pass it on. These are some of the projects that you can see that we've done, and they extend from using digital software to building real-life models as well as sketching on hand. So you can see the different kinds of methods we use. And now we're going to pass it a bit on to why having so many subjects and the hard transitioning leads to a lack of sleep. So, Inda?
I think it's safe for me to assume that there is a stereotype: design don't sleep. Uh, it's true to a certain extent, I guess, because you really just have to sacrifice the time you would like to rest simply to accommodate the workload that you have. Now, you know, a lot of people will not relate to this, and they will, especially your family or your friends, you know, they will start to say, oh, design students, you have really, really bad time management, you know, need to juggle between your schoolwork and stuff like that. But that is really not the case. The reason is because design is not a one hit and one run kind of thing. It takes multiple tries, and you go through a lot of trial and error just to get the result that you really want. And it takes a lot of determination and resilience to do so. And to do that, you might, and I repeat, have to tone. And a lot of you may know toning as staying through the night and doing your schoolwork. Yeah, but it's actually a really interesting thing to do because you build up your resilience and you build up your memories that you have with your classmates, because they are the ones who understand you, they are the ones who are there for you, and they are the ones who will relate to you as well. Look at my friend Azam, for example. I think he had a rough night and he slept through the class, but it's okay. It may sound like a lot now to adjust your sleeping schedule and to really accommodate the workload that you will have, but it will become second nature soon, and there will be people there to help you to adjust to it.
So next thing, this is more of a personal topic for me. So me personally, I also suffer with some with like self-esteem, and coming into poly and into interior architecture, the environment in IED might come as quite challenging and competitive, and it is true to a certain extent where we are constantly around our classmates and our peers, and we subconsciously would start to compare our work with each other, such as maybe let's say my classmate can draw very well, and then I may not have the skills in drawing, and I might have a low self-esteem because I keep comparing myself with this skill which I'm not good at. But however, like I've learned to take this opportunity to grow as an individual, to work on work on skills and that I'm not good at also. And so like I would say that this competitive nature actually allowed me to grow more as a designer and even push myself to my limit. And I would say from a personal experience is that everyone has their own individual strengths and weaknesses, and I feel that even if you potentially come into IED, you shouldn't compare yourself with other people, as we all excel at our own different things. And we're currently schooling also in Temasek Poly, so we are not experts at anything. We are always here to keep on improving and keep on brushing up our skills also for the future as well. So I would say that, yeah. So that is kind of my own personal take. And now, one more advice I would say is that even if you are good or you excel at this kind of skill or subjects, I would say that it's also very important to be humbled upon your achievements, and you must always be open to feedbacks. As a designer, there is no end. There is always just improvements. There is no perfect design, like I said previously. We are all working towards better and better designs. So yeah. So this, I would say, nature has allowed me to grow more as a designer. So yeah. But come along with, oops, growing is often painful and it can take a toll on one's mental health as well. I think Christine would like to talk more about this subject, more about this topic.
Okay, so Jeremy has mentioned that it's really difficult because of there's so much stress on doing well and self-esteem, and it's definitely not easy. So I'm going to talk about hardest thing about the mental health, like right here, right now, and it's going to be really real with you guys. So in IED, right, your self-esteem and mental health will definitely take a big hit. And if you're someone that's really like cocky from the start, that's a really good thing actually, because there's going to be many rejections and heartbreaks throughout every single project that you do. You're going to have like 40 or 50 different times they get rejected day after day after day to find the only one that actually like works, and that will probably be your best effort. But it's also not an easy thing to handle because it's full of a lot of constant sadness, and you have to suffer to get to where you want. It's like no pain without gain, you know. And due to all of the rejections, you'll definitely feel sad. You'll definitely feel like depressed, and you'll sometimes feel like you don't do anything. And that's definitely okay, because sometimes your mental health will just fall into like those deep depths of the ocean. But at the same time, coming up with like a concept, an idea, and coming up with a design, that's one of the best things in the world, to like learn and to feel like, wow, I actually made my lecturer like say that was good. That is like one of the proudest moments that you ever feel in these 3 years. And for them to finally say, okay, that works, that is good. Wow, that moment, you feel so happy. And presenting your final idea and to show like a council of the teachers and you show the clients, that moment, I don't think anything can actually describe it, because it gives you so much relief. It makes you so happy. It makes you just smile. And I don't know, it's one of the best parts about being in this course actually, is to come up with a design and to have people appreciate it and to tell you that it's good. And I feel like even though there are many hard parts about your mental health taking a hit and getting rejected every day, the moment that you find like the spark, or you find what it is that makes people go, wow, I feel like your mental health will shoot up, your confidence will go straight up, and that's a feeling that I don't think anybody can deny from you.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Christine. I honestly have experienced it firsthand of submitting work that I am really proud of. And I would say that this feeling is euphoria, is pure euphoria. And I can, yeah, it's a good feeling. And so from this, we were moving on to the best parts of our ID.
Actually, I'd like to hear from Inda first. How was your mental health during year 1 and year 2? Since we had the COVID, do you want to extend more on that?
Wow, thanks, Christine. It was rough. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You need to be more independent of your own learning, and without the support of your friends around you constantly, it can be really draining. and constantly hearing like negative criticism will also tear you down a little bit. But just maintain your mental health. Talk to people about it, and don't just keep it all in to yourself. And yeah, you just gotta keep pushing through and keep going on. And when you need to take breaks, always remember to take breaks. That is the most important thing.
Okay, like Jeremy said, let's move on to the best parts of IED. So, Jeremy, do you want to say your famous quote, the one that you've been dying to say?
Yes, I agree. There's always a silver lining and also there's a silver lining in IED also. So moving on to the best parts, which is actually the people. So the people in IED and design as a whole are people who accept one's strength and weaknesses, and also will always be there for you. As you know, we have our studio is where we spend most of our time. Is basically like our second home in the studio. And I would say that this is a time where you get to intermingle with a lot of your classmates and even course-mates also. So I would say that throughout my year as a year one and a year two, I've made a lot of new friends throughout my course, and each one of them have with their own sense of creativity, their own sense of style, and it also allowed me to grow as I open up my mind and see more perspective from my friends. And I would say that the people in IAD are always there to push each other to new heights and nurturing this great ambition with the same passion of design in IAD. So, talking more about the people itself, since talking more about the studio in IAD, there's actually a lot of opportunity for intermingling between the year ones, between juniors and seniors. As a year one, I've actually made quite a few friends with the year two and year three seniors. And even as a year two now, I would sometimes even go to my seniors who graduated from IED and even go to them for some advice about how I should approach my design and how I should approach certain stuff and for my assignments as well. And I feel that, especially with the year ones now, I feel that I hope to be some sort of like a role model to my year ones, just as how my seniors have done the same to me. I just hope to be there, like this sense of where design is really family and where like we can always come to each other in need of help. And if we are, yep. So that's the best part for me is the people.
Okay, so here we see a bunch of galleries from Indus Phone, and we're going to talk about a bit more about the people, but from my perspective and my opinion. I feel that the best part about being in IED is the atmosphere. I love the people here. I love how amazing they are. And I think we've made you to believe that we basically don't have time to do anything else but work. But here's your chance to see a bit differently. So you can see from these pictures that we go to a lot of places. You can see us doing dangerous stuff but having fun. If you can see, you can actually see Jeremy at like the second photo in the middle at the bottom corner, and that's actually a game that we were playing. And it's called Sardines, and we were playing that game when we had like some intermediate time and we were having fun with it. So, and you also can see Jeremy's dog if you see like super closely. And we just want to like show you this gallery to also say that ID is not just about work, it's about making relationships, making friendships, and even our lecturers are inside here, if you can see. And the top left photo is actually one of the first pictures we ever took as a class, and I feel like at that moment we were super bonded, and I love that, and I love the feeling that we get when we are all with all of these design people. You can see that there's so many bright personalities and colors all around, and yeah, I just love the atmosphere here, and something that I would never give up, not for anything else in the world. So best parts of art and design, Inda.
Damn, Christine, Jeremy, it's getting quite nostalgic here. But I guess design people really are really nice. We can thank design for bringing us together. Like I guess one great thing about the design community is that um the people around you will really inspire you because they really are invested in what they do and have a lot of passion for what they do. Like just a personal experience when I was younger, I always I always had a deeper appreciation for art and just further analyzing things and like concepts around us. And it was really hard to find someone who was on the same frequency as me. But when I step into design, it's like stepping into like a whole new world. And yeah, they just keep driving you forward, keep pushing yourself, and you can really learn a lot from them. Um, being a Having that close proximity with them on a daily basis really is an opportunity for self-expression and just to be who you are. And you can learn a lot of things from your friends, from your peers also, and just build up your skills to be more critical of yourself, more critical of your own abilities, and to really start to appreciate yourself as well and appreciate the people around you.
Wow, Inda! Okay, so we've gone past the bad parts, the good part. So now let's have a small conclusion on what part of IED is the most important to each of us. So since Jeremy's face is on here, let's start with Jeremy first.
Yes. So I think IAD is what I like about IAD is that you must truly have passion for the cause. I would say that it's extremely important to actually do what you love, which is actually one of our design motto. Yeah. So I would say that if you have a passion for the arts of like architecture and maybe even interior designer, this is actually the place for you, as this is where we drive you to your potential and like drill you to the max, you know. And I would say that your passion will carry you through the tough times, and it will also carry you through the best times in IED also. So moving on to Christine, as she talks more about diligence of IED.
Okay, so one thing that, yes, he has said that ID you need passion, but you also need diligence. And there are definitely people with a lot of talent in this world, and there's definitely people with a lot of passion. But I find that having diligence is the most important thing about being in ID, because sometimes you don't even sleep. You pull all-nighters for 2-3 days, and if you don't have the diligence to be able to do that, or if you don't have the passion to do that, you'll never be able to get through to it. You'll never be able to end up with the final outcome that you desire, because design takes time. You need time to develop a concept or project, and you need diligence for that. You need a lot of time, a lot of knowledge to help for your projects. And as he said, that even though we do spend so much time, you need passion, and you really got to love what you do. You know the quote, it's like, if you truly love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So you just gotta love it. So if you like design or want to become an architect or interior designer, even a landscape designer, I think IED is the place for you. So Inda, what do you think about what I just said?
Well, Christian and Jeremy, I really agree with you guys. It's a lot of hard work, you know. That's mostly what we covered about. But I guess one important thing that I feel a lot of people have to remember is that despite all of this hard work doesn't measure your ability, but mostly it kind of is an indicator of how passionate you are. And yeah, it's just really important to keep believing in yourself, like always believe in yourself, and you'll be able to get through the hard times. And I guess one advice I would give to people who might want to be more serious in design and maybe take up a design course would be to learn how to separate your personal and professional views, and this way you can really get far in the field and learn from your peers as well.
Okay, so we've talked about the good things, the bad things, the lecturers, we've talked about the subjects, and we've talked about our advisors and most important parts of IED. But we also have to ask you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, and we'll try our best to answer most of them. So maybe now, since we're at a Q&A session, we can talk a little first before the comments come in. So one thing that I love about IED is actually, or rather I love about design, is the food here. So what do you guys think about the food first? I think going a little off topic, but a little small talk first.
yes, the food here, delicious.
Okay, we draw it back to ID a bit. Maybe we can talk about other, because we took on different subjects just now. So I want to take this time to ask Jeremy. Jeremy, what do you think of our digital subjects?
For our digital subjects, personally for me, I'm not really a very digital person. Like I struggle even using the computer. Like sometimes I struggle using Microsoft Word, and then now I'm introduced to software like Photoshop, um, Revit, and 3D Max, like very complex 3D modeling softwares, which I honestly struggled with initially. But however, the lecturers are always open, and I was able to consult any queries with them. And even my friends played a very big part also, as they helped me through this through this digital subject which I find really difficult. And yeah, so big thanks to my friends who helped me through this. And yeah, but I honestly find that it is actually very useful for the future, as like software like Revit and Revit 3D Max are very um software that are actually used in the industry already. And the fact that we're already like learning it in poly will give us a very big advantage in the future also, and will also allow us to practice more before reaching that point of our life. And I would say that through IED, I'm able to have given me the opportunity to practice this software and having access to it. So yeah.
Okay, let's go to Inda. So how do you feel about the digital technology subjects and software that we have learned up till now? Because I know you're more of someone that likes to sketch and draw with your own hand. So how is it learning digital as a whole?
I think you could consider me like a grandma when it comes to computer, because I'm more confident with hand sketching and stuff like that. But it's just about, you know, taking your time to really learn the software and doing it slow. Not to worry so much about, oh, this person is better than me, or oh, I can never catch up, you know, or stuff like that. But just to really do it for yourself and take the time and use the time to practice these skills also. Because I realized that being good at something, especially when it comes to our digital subjects, it's not about your talent or anything like that. Like, yes, talent is a factor, but it's mostly about the hard work and the effort that you put in. Like, Jeremy dedicated a lot of his time doing his model, and Christine dedicated a lot of her time teaching me. And yeah, I dedicated a lot of my time to learn. So just, it's very amazing to see your vision come into life, to translate your design vision. It's just very interesting, and also it's very useful skill to have in the future. Whatever it is, next time, people will come to you and consult with you, and just like with a snap of the finger, you'll be able to show them what they really want to see.
Okay, wait. I actually have a question for Christine and Inda. So, in IED, right, other than design related skills, right, what other skills do you think you have, like, I don't know, practice or develop throughout in IED?
How about we do an exchange? So I say for her and she'll say for me. So I think that I think that in the most improved skill or the transferable skill that she learned the most from the past 2 years is that I'm really proud of her for this, is that she really learned to open up. And at first she was like really quiet and she didn't dare to ask much questions. But now she's like completely bold. She's like, let's go, I can do this. And we all love like her newfound confidence. And I love that she's found this I love that she's found like how much her self-esteem can go to, and I think it's an amazing thing. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Christine. This transferable skill is practice, you know. But I guess for Christine, one transferable skill that she learned would be to really be able to work in a group. Sometimes when you're really hard-headed and really just wanna go for your concept or go for your direction, she was from a science background, so she really will push through and say, oh, this is my way of doing things, let's stick to this. But in design, you really just learn from other people. And Christine, I guess through the 2 years, took time and learned from her classmates and to actually appreciate other people's views and not just her own. Yeah.
Okay, since I'm the only one left out from their conversation, so I would say other skills in design, other than design, that I managed to pick up through, yeah. So other than, I would say, all those practical skills like model making and like digital renderings, I actually managed to open up more as an individual and to even approach my lecturers and even like my friends for advice and new ideas of like how I can improve. And I would say that it's actually not very easy to get out of your comfort zone, I would say, especially in IED. So yeah, I guess there's always room for growth, in especially um if you're in an area where you're uncomfortable and you're unfamiliar with. And I feel like, yeah, I guess managed to increase my self-esteem, I would say the least, I think. And I would say I've also improved like my conversation skills, I guess, as a person, I think. As we also, other than um all those, like I said, all those practical skills, we also had to do presentation wise. So we have to have a lot, have develop how to speak, how to do a story, how to tell this story to other people, and how to let other people grasp your concept and your story along with it. So yeah, so those are, I think, the skills that I think I picked up in ID.
Hey, I don't think we should let Jeremy go so easily. Inda, do you have any complaints about him? Just joking. Okay, so Inda, do you think there's any new transferable skills that Jeremy has learned?
For Jeremy, his ideas, as you saw from the juice barista, is insane. It's out of the box. And I guess he learned how to find what is relevant and how to just express his design idea to the audience. So I realized that at the beginning, Jeremy always he's able to relay his concept to like maybe his classmates, but not to say a normal person. And this transferable skill is really important because when you go out into the real world, your clients are not people who understand design, who have an in-depth knowledge about design. And they just really need you to explain things in layman terms. And Jeremy really managed to pull through, and his presentation was, as I said, outstanding. And he just, told his concept and told a nice story in a way that everybody can understand. So good job, Jeremy.
Yes, after 2 years, Jeremy has finally come down to earth. Okay, so it was really amazing talking to you guys today. I think it's been a long time since we actually sat down and talked about ID. So that's amazing. So as you can see from the screen in the presentation right now, these are some words from our seniors, and we're gonna let you guys have a second to read them. And then we're going to end off by saying that tomorrow is day 2 of the open house, and our seniors are going to be here, and they're going to do some presentation, and they're going to really talk about the more technical aspects that we didn't manage to cover, because today was more of a short introduction. So from the 3 of us, we would like to say that design is such a big family, and that we hope to see you soon.
Our world is constantly changing, and how we design our buildings must reflect these changes and still keep in harmony with the natural environment. Are you curious about what it takes to become an interior designer and architect? Do you wonder if this course can help you become an interior designer and architect who designs buildings with spaces that are not just functional but inspirational as well? Hello and welcome to Temasek Poly School of Design, Interior Architecture and Design course. I'm your host Faith. Let me share with you what interior architecture and design is all about as we journey through the school. Before you can build anything, you need a strong foundation. Interior design and architecture is no different. In your first year, you'll cover basic foundation subjects like architectural drawing and form exploration. At the end of your first year, you apply everything you've learned to make your first integrated studio project design. During your second year, you'll sharpen your skills in both the technical and creative side of interior design and architecture. You'll learn subjects such as material and finishes, construction detailing, and digital modeling. At the end of your second year, you have an opportunity to do projects with growing significance. The projects will be in collaboration with public and commercial client organizations. You'll have the chance to present your work to clients and receive direct feedback from them. Finally, when you get to year 3, you have a chance to do a real industry project for a client. You'll then go for your student internship program where you'll intern for a design company for 4 months, where you'll get first-hand experience on how the industry works. On your return to school, you should be ready for your final stretch in the course. You will personally propose your own final year project, a design project that will be the pinnacle and pride of your 3 years in Temasek Poly. I know it might seem like a lot to take in, but don't worry. The lecturers in IAD are passionate mentors with many years in the industry, and they will be there with you every step of the way in your learning journey. You'll join a group of junior and senior students as well as fellow freshmen learning together in this course. If you believe that architecture is a thoughtful making of space, hesitate no more. Come join us at the Temasek Polytechnic Interior Architecture and Design course.